Okay, we got some folks rolling in. Welcome to the Brown School's info session today. If you are new here, if you want to go ahead and take a poll we just launched, we just want to get an idea of who's in the room with us today. We got a lot of folks who are enrolled and planning to attend this fall. Hello, can't wait to meet you in person. We've also got some folks still making a decision, which is totally fine. You know, May 1 is coming. I will put it out there that May 1st is my birthday. So it would be my honor as a birthday if you decide to come to the Brown School or at least chat with us and hang out with us for a bit. So thanks for coming. All right. And as folks come in, just to get us started, we are going to be talking about today in our second to last info session of the spring this semester, getting involved outside the classroom, research, jobs, campus organizations, and more. This tends to be a really popular topic that admitted students and folks who are just prospective students have questions about. So we have a wonderful panel here of current students and also folks that work here at the Brown School who can answer these questions for you. So thank you all for being here today. All right, we'll move forward and get started, and definitely feel free to answer the poll as we go. But just to get us started with some housekeeping notes, just for you all to know, today's webinar is being recorded and it will be posted on our YouTube channel at Brown School, WashU on YouTube. And we do have closed captions enabled and can be activated at any time. In a Zoom webinar, we can't see or hear the audience and we can't call on raised hands. So if you do have questions, please use the Q&A feature and not the chat to submit those questions during today's conversation. Some questions will be answered as we go, but other ones we will definitely try and answer live for you as time allows. And if we don't have a chance to answer your question, please reach out to us via email at brownadmissions@boostal.edu, especially if you do have specific questions about your application or your admission decision, please reach out to us directly. And we'll focus today on getting involved outside the classroom. So just to introduce ourselves, I'm one of your hosts today, Clarissa Jackson. I use she, her pronouns. I'm an admissions and recruitment specialist. Some of you have maybe worked with me as well as my colleague, Clea, and we're really excited to welcome you here today. And I'll pass it to Clea to introduce herself.
Perfect. Thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Khalil Watson. As Clarissa mentioned, I am likely your designated admissions and recruitment specialist if you are not assigned to Clarissa Jackson, and I do use she, her pronouns. So next, let's get into the agenda for today. So we're going to start off with our amazing panelists, then go a bit into involvement outside the classroom here on WashU's campus and within the Brown School. And then if time allocates, definitely going to have a section where you can ask additional questions through the functions that Clarissa mentioned. So to pass it over to our panelists, I would love for you all to please share your name, pronouns, your role at the Brown School, and your favorite spot on campus. And we will start with Deshaun.
Hello, everyone. My name is Deshaun Scott. I use he, him, his pronouns. I am the Assistant Director for Student Engagement at the Brown School. So my favorite place on campus would have to be the quad. So it's a nice, peaceful environment where it has a lot of trees and places to sit at. So that's where I go just to hang out with like students and faculty and staff members, just get away from the office.
You want me to go next? Hi, everybody. My name is Liz. I am a first-year MSW student here in the mental health concentration. And my favorite spot on campus is probably the Brown Library because it's super quiet, but there's also like these gorgeous windows that let in so much natural light. A perfect place to study.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Deshaun. Sophia?
Yeah, my name's Sophia. I am a second-year MSW student at the Brown School and a student ambassador. I use she, her pronouns, and I think my favorite spot on campus is the area outside of Hillman Hall. There's a nice little sitting area, and you can see all of East Campus, which is very green and beautiful right now.
Perfect. Thank you, Sophia. And then we do have Joe who will be joining us a little bit later. And so before we have him jump into one of the questions, we'll definitely have him introduce himself as well. But next, we just want to talk a bit about some of the outside the classroom opportunities here at WashU. So the first one that we definitely want to highlight is the Graduate Center. So this is a place for all WashU graduates and professional students to develop, gather, and connect. So they host programs and events such as Rock Your Research Series, Making Time Management Work for You, and then grant and fellowship application workshops. They also support students through fun programming as well that is not solely educational, as well as they have multiple student organization groups. So Graduate and Professional Student Council, Black Graduate Student Association, Graduate Christian Fellowship, Prosper, which stands for WashU Students Promoting Science, Policy, Education, and Research, Graduate Nature Troopers, and many more. And then lastly, just our summer recreation center, and they have a cellular art gym, which is included in your activity fees that you have access to, and then a bunch of free snacks and health options and healthy options as well. So then now it's time for the questions from our panelists. I first want to start with Deshaun, if that's okay. I would love for you to tell us more about student groups, and then what options do students have for joining those student groups or organizations?
Yes, and so at the Brown School, we have a handful of student groups. So we have Student Coordinating Council, also known as SEC, Sales for Society, and we also have International Student Association. We have American Indigenous Student Association, and then we have BCOM, which is also the acronym for Brown Campus Alliance for Mental Health within the Brown School. But we also have the Graduate Center. So the Graduate Center have about 20 different student groups that involve all different graduates and PhD students across campus. So it's a great opportunity to get involved that way, to meet people that are outside your major that you plan on plan on learning here at the Brown School as well. And then SEC is pretty much like your SGA, Student Government Association. So they help plan events. They also help advocate on students' behalf and make those connection points and build a community around the Brown School and other schools within the campus community.
Perfect, Deshaun, thank you. And that actually leads to my next question for Liz. So I would love to know more about your experience with SEC, and then how you got involved, if you don't mind sharing.
Absolutely. So, for context, I am the vice president of the Student Coordinating Council. And I was asked by my classmates to run for SCC, basically on the premise to get a prom in place. That was their main goal. So that was like what I ran my platform on. But realistically, I wanted to be that touch point, like that bridge between student concerns and administration. Because a lot of times the program is really fast paced. And it's only 2 years, which feels like a long time when you're in it, but it also feels like not any time at all. So it's really important, because I'm coming from a professional world. I can make those connections between my peers and administration and have those challenging conversations and facilitate those conversations. And so that's really why I wanted to run for student government.
Amazing, thank you. And the next for Sophia, you are one of our ambassadors in the admissions office and have done a lot of amazing work, and definitely was instrumental in our resource fair that represented over 32 campus groups and departments. So I just want to know if you have any hidden gems that students may not know about that you'd love to share.
Yeah, I know you had spoken a little bit about this previously, Kalia, and Deshaun touched on it as well. But there are a lot of great opportunities to get involved beyond just the Brown School through the Grad Center, which has been name dropped a lot. But they're a really, really great resource, like you said, for more like practical help, as well as more of like social engagement. So they have a really cool art and wine night every year that I've been here so far at the Kemper Art Museum. They have a monthly Cub Club, which is for grad students with kiddos, to get them involved. So a really cool place to connect. They also have free coffee and awesome study spaces not too far from the Brown School's buildings. So I like to pop over there.
Perfect, Sophia. Thank you. Just adding more context to that amazing resource of the Graduate Center. Well, now we are going to pass it over to Clarissa to ask our panelists a few questions about employment and just like volunteer opportunities and experience.
Sure. Thank you, Kalia. Kind of going back to Deshaun, you talked about the student groups. Can you talk about too, and maybe also Liz and Sophia, just about the diversity that we have here at the Brown School, whether that's in different student groups or different events that go on campus?
So one thing about the diversity here, we have a certain, it varies from year to year, the percentage of international students that we have here within the MPH program, MSP, and MSW program here too. So just like everywhere else, like WashU is a predominantly white institution. We recognize that, we notice that, I'm calling it out, but also we make an effort of just how do we make sure that students are included with like Office of Global Programs, the student engagement with SCC, because of course there's not a one size fits all approach. So what we do is we try to have like um, different holiday celebrations that we celebrate with the Office of Global Programs. We have our powwow from our Booter Center that put on International Student Association, also host certain events throughout the school year as well. But my main thing I always tell people is like, I always try to make an effort to make connections with people within your same race or different races to learn more about like, what can you all learn together to make this world a better place too. So I always tell people it's going to take time for some people to find that community because everybody have their own definition of what is community. So I always tell people, some people fit right in, some people may take a month or two, and that's okay because I get it for some people as well. But I don't know if Liz and Sophia have anything to add, but yeah, it varies from year to year. But we also have a student support team that also help make those connections with students, and then we also have the school have for international students OISS. So that's here on to support students too.
I can speak a little bit, sorry to jump in. Your foundation courses, you're going to find people in your classes that are going to be your core, that like that's your group. That's the people that you run with. You do your activities together. One person's here of one club doing one thing, and then everybody shows up. It's very cool. And if you're in the same concentration, you get to keep them for 2 years, which is beautiful. If you're not, you go your separate ways and you run into them in the Goldfarb Commons and you're like, oh my gosh, it's been forever. But you will find people here. It may take a month, it may take longer than like the first day instant connection. But the people you meet at orientation, I have one friend I met at admitted student weekend that we connected at orientation, and I helped her find an apartment, and we are in all of our classes together even next fall. So like you'll find people.
I totally agree with you there, Liz. The cohort model is really, really nice. And I echo too, like most of the friends that I am closest with are folks that I met early on in orientation. But you pick up new people as you go. Like every once in a while, you'll have someone in a class and it's like, oh, like I haven't seen you around. Like, tell me about you. Like, nice to actually meet you face to face. So there's a cool kind of amount, I think, of closeness, but also a wide variety of folks where you're meeting new people throughout your entire time while you're here.
Thank you so much for weighing in on that. And I would say that's part of what makes the Brown School have its charm as an alum from 2016 is that you really do, once you find your people, they're your people for life. So I have friends that I've met 12 years ago that we still are best friends to this day. So thank you so much for sharing your experiences, Sophia and Liz. And before we move on, I just wanted to introduce Joe. Thank you so much for joining us. Would you mind sharing your name, your pronouns, and your role at the Brown School?
Hi, everyone. Sorry for running late. I got out of class at noon, so I was scrambling to get that wrapped up in here. But hi, my name is Joe Jovanovich. I use he, him pronouns, and I am a lecturer here at the Brown School. So on faculty doing a blend of teaching and also practicum advising for students.
So hopefully you get to have Joe as one of your advisors, although we have a team in OFE, Office of Field Education. They are all phenomenal and just will help you out throughout your time finding practicum here. And so I think I'll use that as kind of a jump to ask Joe your first question for the day, which is there are sometimes we get students who want to volunteer outside of doing practicum, which is required for their degree. So could you maybe talk about using your experiences as an alum, how students can get involved in the community outside of practicum?
Sure. Yeah. So indeed, yes, I am an alum. I graduated the program in 2010, and I had the context of growing up in St. Louis, but having moved back for the Brown School after moving away for some time. And so I think you'll find that's a blend of, what the student population is like. Some folks from here, some not. And I think, whether you grew up here or not, I found just how little I really knew about St. Louis, having grown up here. So frankly, it might not matter all that much either way. Being open to connecting with community organizations is really important. And I think ways that you can do that, you won't be starting practicum until, for most folks, your second semester, which means your first semester, you'll be busy, of course, with coursework, but it's a great opportunity to start doing some outreach and research. One way that, can be really useful is taking advantage of the various events and speakers that come through WashU. That can be kind of an extra burden on top of classwork. But I think that for me was really, really helpful to meet folks who are doing work in the community that I may not have otherwise encountered through class. And then too, with guest speakers in class, realizing that as an adult learner, you have a lot of power in terms of following up with folks that you see at events or lectures in class, and, sending them a follow-up email to say, hey, I really enjoyed your presentation. Can we grab coffee sometime? I'd like to learn more about your organization. And I think for me, that was something that I'm really glad that I had, folks encourage me to do that, because it was very valuable to me to have some of those connections with folks and follow up outside of those events and class lectures. Likewise, too, I think, don't feel like you need to wait to talk to some faculty member just because you may not have them your first semester. It's okay to reach out and see if you can set up a meeting and pick their brains about community organizations that you might be able to learn more about that aligns to your areas of study.
Thank you so much, Joe. And definitely, please feel free to reach out to us. I think most folks here, unless they're under crazy deadlines or different grants and whatnot, they really are here to support you and get to learn more about you and who you are and your passions. So please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us if you have questions about St. Louis or the Brown School and just what your experience could look like here. I kind of want to circle back to something Liz and Sophia touched on, which is support systems. We know that grad school can be a lot, both good and bad. Sometimes there's ups and downs with it. So can you maybe tell our folks here on the call, how did you find your support system? How did you build it out? Whether you're from St. Louis or you moved here, just how did you find your people besides the classroom?
I'm sorry, who is this for? Is this for me? Or is this for...
Oh, for Liz and Sophia.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
But also, Joe, if you have thoughts, please feel free.
I am not from the area. I moved to St. Louis 2 years ago when I accepted a job at St. Louis Life, which is a residential facility for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities out in O'Fallon, Missouri. And I applied there on a whim because I was looking at WashU for grad schools while I was finishing up my bachelor's in psychology. And I just happened to have a friend that lived in St. Louis and had a space in his house. And so things kind of trickled into place for me. But my support network is a bunch of social workers, and you can't have a better support network than a bunch of social workers. So that's great at my working environment. But even in school, my peers are great support. And then Deshaun is a fantastic support system for students. Tyler, Deshaun, all of your professors here, people really care about you as a person first and a student second. And I think that that's something really special and unique to the Brown School.
Yeah, so I had a little bit of a different experience because I am from St. Louis. So I'm very lucky to have some lifelong friends from here, and my family is in town as well. But being able to connect at the Brown School with folks like Liz said, who have very similar values to you, your fellow students, the faculty, the staff is really, really awesome. And a lot of that support happens outside of the classroom, but some happens in class as well. I can speak to my professors, like whenever something, really big is going on in the world, oftentimes we'll take time out of class to kind of process through that together and talk about the implications it has for our work. So I think taking care of our mental health and our well-being is not something that gets fully siloed, even when we have limited time as grad students.
Thank you. And it's kind of a later question, but I can ask it now, is that many students are interested in part-time employment or either in research assistantships along with school and practicum. So I guess, how do you both as current students manage to balance your commitments with potentially doing research as well as part-time employment, like at the admissions office?
Well, speaking of the admissions office, this is one of my part-time jobs, which is really cool because the team is super supportive and I get to meet with folks like you all the time. I also work at a restaurant right now on the weekends. It's called Telva. If you end up coming here, really great brunch and coffee spot. Check it out, maybe 15 minutes away from campus. And then I do practicum as well over at Webster University in addition to classes. So a lot of bouncing around. But I think that I have learned to just advocate for what I need. Like when I need an extension on something for class, like professors are super, super accommodating. A lot of part-time work opportunities, especially on campus, are very flexible because they understand that you're a student first and you have a lot going on in your life. So it's the kind of thing that if you ask for the support and ask for the flexibility, it often will be there.
Absolutely. I'm going to echo that, like ask for things. I work a full-time job at that I mentioned before, so I'm a little bit different than most students here. So maintaining a full-time job and some student involvement and a practicum and a full course load is a lot. So if you are in a position where you need to do that financially, you can. Like it's doable, but it's a lot. I'm not going to lie to you. Like I've given up my social life. My social life is my schoolmates. It is my coworkers. So there are some things that you have to sacrifice to do that. But if that's the thing that's keeping you from pursuing higher education, it's possible. I want to give you hope there. Get a planner, a really good one, and a lot of different colored pens. If you're the type of person that likes to cross things out, do that. And then really, it's like advocating, learning how to say no is probably the best thing that you can do through a grad school is be like, no, I do not have the capacity. Get really comfortable saying, I do not have the capacity to do this. And like owning your authenticity. Yeah, my best advice.
Oh, I love that. And you mentioned, Liz, before that Deshawn has been kind of a great support for you while you've been in the classroom setting. So for Deshawn and Joe, can you maybe talk about what other advice you would give to students as they consider on-campus employment or off-campus employment? Just what tips do you have for folks looking into that?
I benefited from having the opportunity to work as a graduate research assistant with the Center for Social Development when I was a student here. And I don't fully remember how I came across that, to be honest, but I know that there were lots of like posted opportunities along those lines, but then also following up, like kind of what I mentioned earlier in terms of as you learn more about the different centers that are here, the different faculty and their interests, as you follow up with them, sometimes those opportunities present themselves. And for me, I felt really fortunate that I was able to find work that aligned to an area of interest of mine. Yes, I think there's a lot of opportunities for part-time work off campus as well. But, and then, you might find things off campus that could pay a little bit better. I don't know. But for me, the work on campus as a grad assistant, I think was great because it helped, allow me to get paid for doing work that helped me gain, some content area expertise, that, basically was almost like another part of grad school, part of the learning experience. So, I guess I'm not sure what the current like formal platforms are to tap into those opportunities, but I think a lot of times that networking and talking with folks is a great way to kind of become more aware of those opportunities.
To add on to that, one thing I would tell students is start with the WashU Center for Career Engagement. So they're an incredible resource. I always tell people do not sleep on them. You can utilize the the Center for Career Engagement as a student and when you graduate as an alum to come back. So they're very useful. So they help look over resumes and cover letters. They do mock interviews with you and even give you tips on like negotiating if you reach your job offers or if you're doing on-campus or off-campus employment as well. And explore Handshake. So Handshake is our platform that people post their jobs that's going on. So you can always feel free to filter out like part-time roles, research opportunities, and internships using Handshake. You're learning all about this during your first semester when you get here as well. And then I always tell people consider like federal work study, see if you're eligible for that, or on-campus jobs. And don't be afraid to ask for help because you never know who has connections here as well. So networking could help benefit you either find a job or working for a research center within WashU. And then last thing I'm emphasize again is just visit Career Center early because a lot of people like to utilize the resources that they have here as well.
Thank you so much. And that is a perfect lead into my last question in this section is specifically for research assistantships. So Joe, you mentioned that you were a research assistantship when you were here. I was also one when I was at the Brown School. But maybe for our current students and Deshawn, can you talk about how, if you have one, how you were able to obtain one? Or if do you have friends who have research assistantships and how did they go about reaching out to professors and making those connections? What was effective in that piece?
So I'm not personally involved in research, but I have a lot of friends and classmates who are. Most of them either found those connections directly by talking to their professors or through Handshake, which is the career platform. I would definitely encourage you, though, even if it's a professor you haven't interacted with, shoot them an email. Everyone's super nice and super friendly and can put you on to opportunities, even if they don't have any at the moment.
I would say to go to the different workshops and like continuing ed panels that are offered, because you will come into contact with a lot of research professors there where you can make connections to try to get a research assistant out there.
And the one thing I'm gonna add is sometimes we send out emails out, so different professors or staff member that's involved with different research opportunities, we send an email out to the student body about like, hey, we're looking for a research assistantship. So always read your emails because you never know what you might find.
I definitely echo that. Something that I've heard recently from faculty who sometimes do have these research assistantship positions is that there's kind of a two-step process to it. Is one, reach out to them. If you have a genuine interest in what they're doing, they really love to talk about their research and they're nerds. So they really appreciate when folks reach out and just make that personal connection. But then two, also show up to different events that they host. And so if you go to, let's take social development, for instance, they had a policy symposium today. So coming to those events, meeting with the professors that are there kind of shows, oh, this person's really interested. They really like our work. We want them to work with us as we move forward with our grants and other things. So it's also not just connecting with folks at that initial part, but also following through and showing up to different events too can be really helpful. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Kalia to talk about work life and balance.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Clarissa. And again, just to add, before I ask our panelists some more amazing questions, is that to just anchor this session, 30% of your success is going to come from inside the classroom and 70% is going to come outside of it. And so, of course, everything that you're learning in your classes with your professors is important and pivotal to your success and your trajectory when you're graduating and entering the workforce in these amazing fields. But also, as everyone has mentioned, we just want to continue to emphasize and encourage to reach out and to take advantage of any opportunity that comes your way way, but also if there's an opportunity that you want that has not been presented to you or set up in a structured way for you to grab hold on, please ask. That starts with admissions, that starts with our ambassadors, that starts with all the folks on our amazing panel, our advisors, and field education. So that's super important, and we're all here and ready to help. Just reach out. So the first question I want to ask, and this is kind of for everyone, part of being a Brown School student is living in St. Louis and taking advantage of all that the city has to offer. So I would love to know from everyone just a recent fun event that you have attended in the city.
Okay, this wasn't super recent. This was about a month ago at this point. But some context, again, I'm from St. Louis and my sister works for local journalism outlets. So she's always putting me on to some random event that's happening in the city. So we went to this 3-day punk festival that happened over the weekend. And we went to the last day, which was emo night, which I thought was really cool. It was at a venue called Platypus, which is really teeny tiny. But to kind of like broaden that out, St. Louis has a really cool local music scene. We also have some big stadiums and things. It's a very common stop on national and international tours. So cool music city if you're into that kind of stuff.
It's just not past recent, but it's going to be present recent. St. Louis has an outdoor theater called the Muni, and they have free seats. And you can see like Broadway level plays and musicals, just like in this garden view section, which is fantastic. I saw Rent last year, and I like bawled my eyes out for an entire hour in front of a crowd of hundreds of people.
St. Louis has a lot of great events. So I am cheating as well and looking to the future, but we have the one of the country's largest Earth Day festivals that's coming up this weekend in Forest Park, and there's lots of free public events all the time in area parks such as Forest Park, which is right across the street from campus, as well as events like farmers markets, Tower Grove Park. I'm trying to think of an event recently I went to. I don't get out as much as I used to, being, the whole parent thing. But the I guess I would just say that if you make it a point to ask around and pay attention to things on social media, you'll have no shortage of things to do that I wish I could better articulate right now, because I don't have as much opportunity to do it. Not much comes to mind for me personally recently, but there's a lot of good stuff out there.
For me, I would say last night. So yesterday we had a bowling event with students, and it's on Delmar Loop. So I love the Delmar Loop. It's very close to campus, very accessible to walk or take a bus down. And the Loop has a lot of food places, karaoke bar if you all are interested in those things. They have a bowling alley, mini golf, a couple of happy hour places, and coffee shops too. So I like the Loop because it also have a lot of small business, local business here in St. Louis. I always like to find the small mom and pop shops to help them support them too. But yeah, the bowling event that we had here yesterday was fun. I like engaging with students outside of campus because sometimes I feel like I live where I work, but it's always good to just connect and learn more about other people, you outside, because being here, having campus on here is fun. But again, some students probably thinking about, oh, I got to study for this, or I got to talk to this professor. So get them out that mindset at times.
Perfect. Thank you all. Yeah, there are a ton of things to do in St. Louis. I'm from St. Louis, and I spent a while away and came back, and I feel like that is a common story to hear of folks who have explored and traveled and then found like a magnetic pull. And I wish I remember who told me this, but someone told me the arch, if you turn it sideways, it's like a magnet. And I definitely think that's true. And so there's a ton of fun events. Clarissa just went to the Fox Theater to see Sailor Moon live. And even on campus, I recently just also attended an event through Olin and the Alumni Center with a panel between Morgan Devon, who is the CEO of Blavity and Afrotech, as well as Pinky Cole, who is the CEO of Slutty Vegan. Sorry about the language. That is the name of her vegan business restaurant. But that's also amazing opportunities that is provided just with our location being here in St. Louis and having an amazing network here from WashU alum, but also just in the St. Louis community. But I would love to go back to the Shine, and you have talked about this a lot, but I also want to know if there's anything else that you want to add about how the student affairs and your team supports students in and outside of the classroom. If there's just anything else, another tidbit that you want to include.
Yes. So my team and I, so we the Department of Student Engagement, we pretty much follow students from the beginning of new orientation all the way to you graduate, maybe reach out once you're alum. So the very first thing that you all see us support you all with is new student orientation. So new student orientation will be in August. You get to interact with faculty, staff, and students to learn more about the Brown School, learn what does it mean to actually be a graduate student and the difference between undergrad and graduate students, because it's a big difference and some similarities as well. And then throughout the school year, we have certain events. So we have like happy hours, we have professional development events here on campus. We also collaborate with different doctoral or graduate programs, so we can kind of expose you all to different students as well. So sometimes we have a trivia event, and then we have our Brown School student groups, all the way from sales societies, the student coordinated council, and then we also have a student support team. So our student support team, if you're struggling in the classroom or outside the classroom, you get put on a student support database, and we reach out with you and try to figure out what resources do you need. Because again, everybody have their own definition of what support. Some people just like, oh, just send me email, or some people are like, well, I'm trying to figure out dealing with mental health. Can you connect me to Habit or WashU Cares or Timely Care? So sometimes you don't understand. Sometimes people don't know all the resources that WashU has to offer. So that's what we kind of do as well, all the way to commencement, so planning graduation ceremonies, affinity celebrations, and excellence awards too.
Nice. Thank you so much, Deshaun. And then I'm going to pass it back over to Clarissa to just wrap up some final questions that we have.
Thank you so much. And before I ask kind of like the big final question, there was a question, Joe, that we had for you. Because you are an alum, folks, when they think about the Brown School, it's not just when we're in school, how can we get involved, but also how will the Brown School help me afterwards when I'm looking at a job, where I'm looking at future volunteer opportunities. So could you maybe tell us what your involvement looked like when you were a student and how that informed or impacted your future work in the community?
Sure. So, Deshaun mentioned already, we have, career center at WashU that provides a lot of formal support. Really encourage folks to, take full advantage of those resources. For more of what I'll call informal support, I think it kind of feeds back into what I was saying earlier, that as you try to get more fully engaged in opportunities, whether they're events outside of class, speakers, following up in networking with folks that come to your classes or with faculty members. For me personally, and I should say also, of course, the practicum experiences that you'll have in the two different organizations you'll do practicum with, and then all the other groups that might interest you. A lot of different groups will interface with who you do practicum with. So long story short, for me, networking across some of those connections directly led to a job. I actually started working at my first job out of the Brown School a month before I graduated, which I can't claim as a common thing. I was lucky, but directly connects to not just what I learned and kind of gained skilled in across my MSW and my concentration, but followed up with a speaker who came to one of our classes, who is a CEO of a local nonprofit. And I'm not saying that my reaching out to them and follow up to that class and having coffee with them is the only reason or the main reason why I got hired by that organization, but I think that goes a long way because I think organizations already value the skills that folks get from the Brown School. But if you can then build upon that with some personal connection and demonstrating your passion and demonstrating your, you know, being tapped into, best practices, I think that goes a long way.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. And so we do have just a couple of quick questions that I think can take us kind of to that final hour. But the first is, would anyone be able to speak to, maybe Joe, this is for you, how easy would it be to get a campus job that could also be used as practicum? Is that feasible for folks?
There are some opportunities along those lines. The practicum process is, largely self-directed, and it is competitive insofar as other students are seeking those same opportunities that tend to be the paid opportunities and the on-campus opportunities. I wish there were more of both of those. It's definitely something that we want to work toward, but frankly, there are not enough of those on-campus and or paid opportunities for everyone. So I think, for students who are really driven either by a certain opportunity on campus or paid opportunities, whether they're on or off campus, just really encourage folks to try to, engage early in that process. You won't really formally be pushed to do that until like later in your first semester. But for those who are interested in hitting the ground running, the Office of Field Ed serves as a resource. So you'll go through your foundations of field class in your first semester, but your engagement with the Office of Field Ed in looking into some of those opportunities doesn't have to be limited to those foundation of field experiences. You can be reaching out to us even before you start here if it's something that you're really keen on identifying sites like that.
Thank you. And I would just add to, this is the part where it's really important to talk to your field faculty advisor once they're assigned to you as soon as possible, because there are some folks, who have had research assistantships. Can there be a practicum opportunity tied with the research that you're already doing and other things? So it's really important just to talk to your individual advisor and kind of know what's possible and what isn't. But that's part of why we're here. We're here to work through, even if it's something new we haven't seen yet, we can work through that together. And as one final question for all our panelists, what is one thing outside of the classroom, whether at the Brown School, WashU, or Greater St. Louis, that you believe has shaped your experience here and the work that you're currently doing?
I can pop in. So this is like more of a fun answer, but taking the outside part very literally, like getting outdoors is a big part of like my mental health care routine, and something I really enjoy. So I think the city of St. Louis has a lot of beautiful parks. And if you're willing to drive a little bit, there's the Shawnee National Forest over in Illinois and the Mark Twain National Forest in Missouri. I like to boulder and rock climb too, usually inside, but there's also some really cool spots for that outside. So that has impacted my experience here, as in it has made me a much happier and healthier person.
I think something that Dean Job said at my admitted student weekend last year, and then again at orientation, was that imposter syndrome that we all feel. Like, throw that away. Like, you're already in, like, you're accepted, like, you belong here. Like, there's a reason that you got that. You are somebody with experience and expertise in whatever you are experienced and an expert in, and that brings value to the rooms that you're entering. And if you show up with that, like, I am the expert of my own life, that's the things we're going to tell our clients, but we don't often believe it about ourselves. So if you just start believing that and bringing that with you, that will change your entire perspective.
I would just say that, again, just kind of reinforcing what I've already shared, that I think, to really appreciate the full value of what you're paying for by coming to not just grad school, but the Brown School at WashU is just an incredible hub, nexus of resources and opportunities. And, you know, we try our best to really set that out on a platter for folks, but at the same time, you'll only be required through your coursework to do so much. And I think students that really not only get the most out of it, but have the most fun and enjoy the experience are those that, you know, seek out those opportunities and take full advantage of them, even though I know that can be so challenging to prioritize against the classroom obligations. I think not waiting to get through your first semester to be thinking about tapping into those opportunities, because I think if you kind of come in and really dive into those, I think that sets you up so much more to really leverage those opportunities in the second year of your studies.
Thank you all so much. Really appreciate you all being here today. As one final thing before we completely close out the event, just so folks know, if you're marking your calendar, we do have one more info session that will be available for you all to join us. It is our Ask Us Anything. So if you've been following along this whole spring semester and there's a burning question that we just haven't answered in our webinar, please feel free to come to that one. That's going to be our time where we answer all your questions as we can. That is on May 21st at 12 p.m. Central Time. And so you can definitely sign up via our website, the Brown School. Just final deadlines for folks to know too is that May 1st, again, my birthday, it is your intent to enroll. So if you do want to attend the Brown School, please let us know by May 1st. And then also June 1st for folks that may be still completing their application. You do have until June 1st as a domestic student to complete your application to be reviewed for the fall semester. And then last but not least, if there are any specific questions that we can answer for your particular application, or maybe you just have some other questions that we couldn't get to today, please feel free to contact us. Again, our email is brownadmissions@woostel.edu. You can give us a call. No one really calls us anymore, but we'll be happy to answer the phone for you or set up a virtual meeting. Again, because we want to connect with you and make sure that this is a good fit. But we would just like to say thank you to all of our panelists, Liz, Sophia, Joe, and Deshawn. Y'all rock. We couldn't do this without y'all. So thank you all for being here today for your time. All right, take care, everyone. Bye.